everybody, 8 o'clock time, a little bit later today. See if we can accommodate some more people in other time zones. We're in London time over here. So let's dive straight into it today. And we were talking yesterday about if you're not sure how to progress maybe with the next chapter, the immediate next chapter, then why not shoot for a scene that you do know in the future? So that's pretty much what we're doing. So we have this scene with Mizuki and our protagonist, Mr. Sharp. So this is a later scene that we are starting to put together. Because we kind of knew, based on what happened in chapter 1, we know at least a few things of what have got to happen later on. So let's look at what we did, and then we'll edit it, and then we'll write a little bit further on and see if we can develop this scene. And the good thing about writing scenes that are in the future is that you can see, okay, what this scene needs is something like, is something like X. There needs to be a gun or there needs to be a way out for our protagonist. And once you know that, you can then go back now that you know that, you can go back and write a scene that sets it all up way in advance. Okay, that's the idea. So yesterday, this is what we wrote. Let's see, is this big enough for you guys? Do let me know in the chat if I need to make the screen bigger, or if the audio is not quite right. Okay, so Sharp meets Mizuki. Remember, Mizuki is the twin sister of Kyori Matsumoto, and both these sisters are captains of the Yakuza. They are leaders in the Japanese mafia. So Sharp has been hired by the first sister to take down the second sister, to kill the second sister even. So he's obviously going to have to meet her at some point in the future, and this is what we were thinking. So these are just bullet points basically of what has to happen. So they shake hands, and we said that Mizuki's grip is going to be really, really immense, right? They're going to shake hands, and Sharp is going to feel like, bloody hell, this girl, this woman, she's got a hell of a grip. And that will be explained in a second. So he then goes on. We have a few differences between the two sisters because we said they were twins. So, I think pretty much the only difference that we're going to see between them is their attitude, and also their perhaps the way that they dress. Maybe one has black lipstick. Kyori Matsumoto had red lipstick. We remember that. It was a vivid thing that we put in. And of course, they have two different sides to their story, right? Kyori Matsumoto said she was the firstborn. She was entitled to be captain of the Yakuza. And, she lays claim to it like that, right? That's her birthright. Mizuki Matsumoto, the younger sister, has a different view. She says, no. I was the favored child. I was the favorite, despite not being the most... not loyal, but the most, she wasn't the best of children. She was a bit of a rascal. But despite that, she was the favorite, and father was going to give her the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. So, she's got her side of the story. So here we go. So, what she says, Mizuki says, my sister was always jealous of my father's love for me. And when Kyori ascended to captain, she took great pleasure in punishing me for it. Have you heard of Yubitsume? Yubitsume, by the way, we did the research on this yesterday, so do check out day 16 if you want to find out, just how we got some of this incredible dialogue, really. It's all from the research. It's a really cool thing. So do check that out. Have you heard of Yubitsume? I shook my head. Yubitsume is a ritual of repentance, a way to atone for transgressions against another and humble oneself before the greater whole. there was a glass display case containing a pure white handkerchief and a very sharp, ornate knife. The blade of the knife was crusted with brown blood. Some say this ritual originated with degenerate gamblers who could not pay their debts, but in fact, it dates back much further, to the samurai and legendary swordsman. You see, Mr. Sharp, in swordplay, it is the little finger which grips the tightest on the hilt. To amputate this finger, then, is to weaken one's grip, and a weak grip betrays a weak warrior. Thus he becomes more dependent on the protection of his master. And then we said, now she's going to pluck the fingers of this gloved hand, and underneath it, she's going to reveal why her grip was so strong, because, she has a robotic hand, right? She's got this steel hand that she has had to have, grafted to her skin, grafted to her body, and because her sister made her do this yubitsume, this yubitsume ritual, which was just basically cutting off all of her fingers because of her jealousy for the father's love, right? So the older sister became captain and then decided to take out all of her jealousy, all of the years of looking at her younger sister get away with murder. She's been looking at that, and she's been saying, no, now that I'm captain, I'm going to make you pay, right? Obviously, when the father was alive, she couldn't do anything to her younger sister. But now that she's captain, the gloves are off, right? And she made her sister cut off all her fingers, right? So Mizuki shows us this robotic hand, and our guy Sharpie's like, right. And she explains, 14 offenses did Kyori accuse me of the day after her ascension, said Mizuki. For each offense, another knuckle was cut. And our guy's like, what? Your sister made you cut off your fingers? And then Mizuki shakes her head. No, that's not how this ritual works. I did. I had to cut off all of my fingers. And then, it goes on a little bit, and we have this thing, the guy comes in to serve dinner. We want to have this serving of the dinner. This is something that we came up with in the chat with Kitty Wistful. We had the scene previously with the restaurant with Kyori Matsumoto with the first sister, and she was telling us all about this story about the tanuki and the rabbit being the hero of the story, and now this sister, the second sister, she is going to serve rabbit as the main course. The subtext being, I know why you're here, Mr. Sharp. I know what game you're playing. I know you're working for my sister, and you are cooked. You are dead meat, right? So a couple of things are coming into my mind since yesterday. So this was the general idea of the scene, what has to happen. We obviously need to flesh it out. We need to edit it. We're going to do that. But here are a couple of things that I'm thinking. So I don't want to have them sitting down having a meal just like he did with the first sister, right? Because, while that does have a nice sort of balance to it, I think that we want to show that these sisters have a wildly different worldview. Despite being twins and despite having the same upbringings, references, the same father, all of that kind of stuff, probably, a lot of the same values, but they have key values that are very different, and the way that they approach life, their outlook on life, and certainly about what happened in the past, has got to be drastically different in order that these characters become established in our mind as separate entities. It's no good having two twin sisters who are basically the same, because how does a reader, sort of differentiate? How does the reader figure out what's going on? Is that making sense, guys? Right? You want your characters to be different. I suppose the only exception is like something in the Matrix where you have the twins, but they're always together, right? So they're really not two characters. They're basically just one character. But these two sisters, they have to be wildly different because they are going to go at it. They're out for blood. They're out for each other's blood. They hate each other. And our guy, Sharp, Mr. Sharp, he is in the middle. right? So let's start editing this, and then we'll put the scene together. What I'm thinking is actually, it seems like this ritual of Yubitsume, which we learned yesterday, and I hope I'm saying that, but guys, any Japanese speakers out there, do let me know how my pronunciation is, if I'm getting anything wrong. But this ritual, she said that it dates back to, we found out on Wikipedia, right, in the research, it dates back to the samurai, right, the legendary swordsman, right, because it's the little finger of the left hand, actually. It's the little finger that when you're gripping a sword, it's the little finger that grips tightest on the hilt, right? And therefore, if you start chopping off bits of your fingers, your grip gets weaker on the sword, and therefore you become a weaker warrior, and you are more reliant on your comrades. You're more reliant on the group as a whole, and therefore your loyalty to the group as a whole increases because you need them. You need them more. So your act of disloyalty, your selfish act, which got you in trouble in the first place, was a rebellion from the group, was seeing yourself as separate from your clan, and now by weakening yourself, you're rebalancing the scale. In fact, you're actually making yourself more reliant on them. So that's how this ritual sort of atones for your transgression. But the point being that it's about swords, right? So what I'm thinking is maybe this sister is a lot more violent than Kyori Matsumoto, right? This second sister, she's more violent, and maybe what's happening is she's in a dojo, right? Maybe she has, she invites Sharp to her training dojo where there are samurai swords all along the wall on display. We've seen these scenes before. She says, come in. She has a very strong grip, either because it's a robotic arm or a robotic hand, or because she's mastered, she has to grip a sword with one hand. I don't know if you guys have ever gripped a sword. I haven't, but I imagine that it must be very, 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 very tough on the grip. So if you can become an expert swordsman with just one hand, you've got to be really, that grip of yours is going to be like, a vice. And that's why this sister is so strong. So, and also I like the fact that it would be in a dojo. You've got the mats, you've got the those sliding walls, you've got the nice view outside. There's the subliminal thoughts going on. This is a dojo. There's going to be fighting. The conflict is right beneath the surface. We're waiting for some kind of fight to happen. It's a dangerous place. Maybe this sister, she lives, in sort of a remote home. She's got a very nice, she's a captain of the Yakuza. She has money, but she's in a dojo and she's training. She wants to basically instill fear in our guy Sharp. So these are the thoughts that are going through my head. Now let's try and edit this scene and make it a little bit better. Okay. So we've got Sharp. He's going to meet her, and we want to get these. We want to get a description of the twin sister Mizuki. So let's have him tell us that. Keeping in mind the rule that all the editors, like I say, all my editors have told me this before. Don't just say Mizuki Matsumoto had, long black hair or whatever it is. Explain how she looks through the eyes of your protagonist or whoever is the point of view character for the scene, because that's how we see this film play out. We're looking through the eyes of a character, so we're going to do that. So I'd seen, something like I'd seen twins before, but non-so. Let's make them really identical. Identical. As these two. Let's say Mizuki Matsumoto. Remember, she's the younger sister, and she was always the loved sister. She was the one who the father favored, despite being a mischievous rascal, who never really did what she was told. While Kyori Matsumoto, the older sister, was always the good child, always did what the father said, was groomed essentially to be the next captain, and then she finds out that the father is really not going to give it to her. He's going to pass over his firstborn child, the good child, and give it to this, to Mizuki Matsumoto, the younger child, the rascally child, just because he favors her. And Kyori Matsumoto says no. Kills her father, takes by force her birthright, and therefore we end up with this situation of two Yakuza captains going to war. So we said that, the same porcelain white skin, right? They have this they're very good looking girls, right? Both of these women, they're very, very good looking. So they have, the same sort of porcelain white skin, the same, I think we said long black lashes, right? Long black lashes. But whereas, remember, it was Kyori Matsumoto had, what's going on here? Only Kyori's lips. Kyori Matsumoto, she had these red lips. And we remember the red lips because they were very sensual. And we had those as a nice character identifier, right? It's the funny hats thing, right? Make sure your characters can be identified easily. Only Kyori's lips had been, let's say, red like whatever, crushed cherries. And we can always make these metaphors and similes much better later, but let's just try and get it down. While Mizuki's were, black. Let's say she wears black lipstick, right? That already tells you a lot about a person, doesn't it? Someone who's wearing black lipstick, there's a story there. We're black like oil, right? They're shiny, they're almost liquid like bile, right? She's got a lot of hatred, this sister. I mean, they both do, but that black lipstick really going to come through, I think. Okay. And then we have this idea of the black leather glove, just on the left hand, right? She's just wearing a glove on the left hand, because that's the hand that got amputated by that ritual. So, it could be something like that. I don't know if we'll keep the hand. I'm not sure what's better yet. Guys, you let me know what your thoughts are. Do we want a robotic hand? Or do we want her to just reveal that she has, no hand, and she just has one hand that is seriously deadly, right? She's now one-handed. I mean, either way, either one can work. My gut instinct is actually that the robotic hand is maybe a step too far, but I love the fact that we are discussing robotic hands, right? That already tells you this is going to be a fun story to write. So I'll keep it in for now, and then as we edit, let's see if which way will work better. Okay, let's see here. I don't think this bit comes here. So obviously she's got to introduce herself, right? So now she'll say Sharp San. She doesn't say Mr. Sharp, right? She'll say Sharp San because San is the Japanese equivalent of Mr. Sharp San, she said, right? Again, these are just those little things. And obviously we don't need to translate that for the reader, right? Enough people understand, oh, this is a vernacular that they use in Japan, right? So, Sharp-san, she said, an honor to meet you. We still have to figure out, by the way, who this guy is, who our protagonist really is, right? Because Kyori Matsumoto, she found him in her ward, in her Tokyo ward of Shinjuku. She summoned him to her restaurant, and she basically said, I want to hire you for a job, but we never really found out who Sharp is. Like, what's his backstory? What's his, why is he being recruited by these two incredibly powerful women, right? These Yakuza mob captains. Why is he being recruited for that? And I think the idea has to be that his backstory is, either... I don't want to go down the assassin route because that's so boring. Like, it's been done so many times before. I want to make him an interesting character, something that we've not seen before. So we're still trying to figure that out, is basically what I'm saying. Which is funny. We don't know who the protagonist is, but we know everything about these antagonists. So it's almost like we are writing a Sherlock Holmes or a Poirot type of story where the narrator is actually a nobody, right? John Watson, he's basically a nobody, right? I mean, yeah, he's got some backstory to himself. He was in the war and all of that stuff, but essentially he's just really standing in for us, the audience, so we can marvel at Sherlock Holmes, right? And it's turning into a little bit of that now. We have these two sisters, and they're really interesting. They're great characters, but our guy, he's got some jokes. He's got a very snide sense of humor, very sharp sense of humor. He has an ex-wife that we've said, but we don't really know who he is yet. It's an interesting position to be in. Normally, at the very least, you know who your character is. But hey, these are the joys of pantsing your way through a novel, which we are doing. So, all right. So, an honor to meet you, and then we can have this bit about. Right, whereas the first sister, Kyori Matsumoto, had spoken to me in Japanese, apparently this sister didn't think I was as well endowed in the tongue department. And then they shake hands, right? Okay, so get rid of that. Took her hand and shook it. Miss Matsumoto. And remember, our guy Sharp, he's there to basically try and bring this sister down, try and take her down. So we need to figure out what his strategy is going to be. So Sharp-san, she said, an honor to meet you. I took her hand and shook it, Miss Matsumoto. Captain Matsumoto. No, She's a bit more violent, this sister, than Kyori. Remember, Kyori Matsumoto was basically a stone-cold, ice-in-her-veins character, right? Our guy Sharp, he was deliberately trying to antagonize her during their first meeting. He was trying to, make quips. He smashes the puzzle box in front of her. He tries to get any sort of reaction he can out of the older sister, and he can't do it. This sister, the younger sister, has got to be more impetuous, more hot-headed, she's got more anger in her. And that's going to leak out. Okay, so again, those differences between the sisters, their different temperaments, will be a factor. So I took her around and shook it, Miss Matsumoto. So maybe again, this is just a subtle testing of the character. So our guy Sharp, he's quite a cerebral character. He wants to figure out where the weak points are of both these women. And he finds that out. He knows that she's a captain of the Yakuza. He knows she has a title. It's kind of like if you, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but if you go and, you have a doctor, try calling a doctor Mr. A lot of the time, they'll, no, I'm actually a doctor, They love their title. I love doctors, but I'm just saying it's funny when they do that, just that. No, I've spent 7 years at medical school, I want my titles to be used. So yeah, I think this sister is going to be the same, she said. And then maybe, we get that that anger coming out, that emotion from her. What am I doing here? Why does my spelling go to hell immediately when I'm trying to talk at the same time, right? Whatever. She said, immediately tightening her grip on my hand. So if this is the robotic hand, right? We introduce it straight away, right? She's shaking. That said, if it's a left hand, if it's the left hand that she's... Oh, thank you, Usurper King, for the raid. Great to have everyone here. So we're just talking about this scene. Let me just fill everyone in who's just joining. Yeah, great to have you all here. So we are talking about this scene. It's a later scene in this novel. We've got two sisters of the Yakuza. And they are going to war against each other. So, guys, if you want, I can read you the first chapter to catch you up. But let me know in the chat. Otherwise, I'm just gonna sort of just keep continuing on with this because I want to just I want to keep going. So the question for today is: do we want a character with a robotic hand? That is the question. Do we want a character with a robotic hand, or do we want a character with no hand? And it's that sort of wow, that's pretty bad. All right, no, don't worry, Angsthaze, you're not interrupting my flow. It's great to have people in. Great to have people watching. I feed on the views, right? So here we go. Sounds like an intriguing premise. Yeah, I'll fill you guys in later a little bit more. We'll go through the first chapter and then you can be caught up. So here we go. We're in this meeting. So I'd seen twin sisters before, but none so identical as these. Right? Mizuki Matsumoto was a carbon copy of her sister Kyori. The same porcelain white skin, the same long black lashes. Only Kyori's lips had been red like crushed cherries, while Mizuki's were black like oil. Mizuki wore a black leather glove on her left hand. "Sharp-san," she said, "an honor to meet you." Kyori Matsumoto had spoken to me in Japanese. Apparently this sister didn't think I was as well endowed in the tongue department. I took her hand and shook it. "Miss Matsumoto." "Captain Matsumoto," she said, immediately tightening her grip on my hand until... I don't know if you guys have ever had this before when someone shakes your hand. You sort that bone of the little finger, it just sort of like crunches in. It's quite painful when people do that. Very annoying. So yeah, until the little finger of my hand sort of crunched in. Crunched under the pressure. And then our guy's like, I couldn't believe how strong she was. Keep in mind, this guy, our protagonist, he has a problem with women, basically. And again, whenever I say that, I qualify that by saying I don't have a problem with women. It's the protagonist that does. So don't get any ideas, guys. Okay, so maybe he winces as well. Right, let's put a bit of a reaction in. I winced at the pain. Oh yeah, E. Armstrong giving me the pensive look. Yeah, really, is that true? Is this a psychological thing? Freudian slips, maybe. I don't think that's a Freudian slip actually. But okay. So then she's like, apology. Okay, yeah. I think I know where this wants to go. Right. So this sister sort of, her emotions leak out immediately. So remember, the older sister, she was a stone cold, ice in her veins type of person. No matter what Sharp did to try and get a reaction out of her, he couldn't. But this sister, she's the opposite. She's more of an emotional roller coaster. Yeah, I know. That's the point. He doesn't like... Yeah, exactly. Would he show his weakness? No, he wouldn't, but he can't help it, right? He immediately went in with this line of, I took her hand and shook it, Miss Matsumoto. He's not using her title, right? That's purposeful, right? He's already, sort of degrading her. You can't be a captain. You're a woman, essentially, is what he's saying. And then she's like, Captain Matsumoto, and just, applies that pressure to his hand like, don't try anything with me. You're not going to get away with it. And he sort of winces at the pain and has to sort of, damn it. This one's just as strong as her sister. This one is going to be a ball of fire that I don't really want to play with. Again, we want to build that tension in, that conflict in as soon as possible, as all my editors keep telling me whenever I turn in another version of a book. So, and then she's going to be like, once she crushes his hand, she's going, oh, apologies. She said quickly. Obviously, she doesn't mean it. And then we go back, but my father ingrained the importance of, what are they called? Not formalities, but title, whatever. I'm just going to put formalities. We'll correct that later. From a young age. Okay, so I think the setting, yeah. See you around, Usurper Kings. All right, great to have you here. Nice. Thank you so much for joining. Have a good night. By the way, guys, where are you tuning in from? Let me know in the chat. What are you guys writing? What are you up to at the moment? Let's open this discussion. And guys, if you want, I'm going to go through that first chapter again to catch you all up, so you know where we are. But also just to get this, see if these scenes are stitching up together, right? Because that's the most important thing. So, from a young age. Okay. So this is the part that we wrote yesterday. And we want to just try and stitch these together. So my sister was always jealous of my father's love for me, and when Curie ascended to captain, she took great pleasure in punishing me for it. Have you heard of Yubitsume? I shook my head. Yubitsume is a ritual of repentance, a way to atone for transgressions against another and humble oneself before the greater whole. So this is the research we did yesterday. This Japanese practice of Yubitsume is a let's let Mizuki Matsumoto explain it. So there was a glass display case containing a pure white handkerchief and a very sharp ornate knife. The blade of the knife was crusted with brown blood. Some say this ritual originated with degenerate gamblers who could not pay their debts, but in fact it dates back much further, to the samurai and legendary swordsman. You see, Mr. Sharp, in swordplay, it is the little finger which grips the tightest on the hilt. To amputate this finger then is to weaken one's grip, and a weak grip betrays a weak warrior. Thus he becomes more dependent on the protection of his master. And then she can, sort of take off this glove, and then we can see the robotic hand. Right, so we can have that. That's a possibility. The other possibility is that she just shows him essentially the stump of her other hand, and we understand that her grip has got so strong because she's now a one-handed fighter. And I don't know how many of you guys have ever swung a sword before. I haven't, but I imagine that takes a lot of wrist and grip strength to do that. So hence why she has this crushing grip. Okay, and then we say, and then the reason for why this hand has been amputated, 14 offenses did Curie accuse me of the day after her ascension to captain, right? For each offense, another knuckle. So the older sister, when she became captain of the Yakuza, she decided to take out all of her jealousy against her younger sister with this ritual of Yubitsume. Father always favored you more, but now that I'm captain, you are going to pay. And she's going to make her pay by chopping off all of her fingers. And then this younger sister, she flees. She goes to another captain of the Yakuza, another rival family, and she works her way up the ranks of that family. Eventually she takes over, and now we have these two sisters who hate each other going to war, essentially, with rival factions of the Yakuza. And Sharp, our guy Sharp, he is in the middle. He is essentially the puppet going between them, and he has to sort everything out. Okay. Guys, let me read the first chapter again. Stay tuned. It won't take too long. But then you guys can sort of come in and have a look, get a sense of where we are, and give your feedback. So, chapter 1. Strap yourselves in, guys. It's going to take about 12 minutes, something like that. I think that's the average time. So, I'm going to tell you a story which you'll believe, and then I'll tell you the truth, which you won't. It goes like this. 3 days after I arrived in Japan, I came back to my hotel and the concierge told me that a package had been left for me. She was wrong. I wasn't expecting a package. I didn't know anyone in Japan, nor had I told anyone that I was coming here. So who could be sending me a package? But she held it out to me all the same. It was a standard brown envelope about A4 in size with no obvious markings, not even my name. I asked who had left it, but the concierge told me that it was her colleague who had accepted the package, and so she didn't know. Needless to say, I shouldn't have taken it, but I've never been one to make good decisions. The package felt heavier than it looked, and I heard a metallic sound inside. I'd once watched a documentary about those postal bombs back in the 1980s. They'd been filled with all sorts of scrap metal as shrapnel, and probably made the same noise just before they'd gone off. Not that I'm one of those paranoid nutcases, but I do have an ex-wife. No, said a voice in my head, Sabrina wouldn't kill me via unmarked postal bomb. She'd use FedEx. Is everything all right, sir? Asked the concierge. I don't suppose you'd open this for me. Sir? No, I didn't think she would. Nor did I get the chance to convince her because another guest, some big fat American woman, barged me out of the way in order to check herself in. My God, I thought she could have killed us all. I took the package back to my room on the second floor, sat at the desk, and after a few minutes of silent contemplation, I opened the package and looked inside. The metallic sound had been made by one of those puzzle boxes, the kind where you have to slide around the secret panels in order to unlock the contents. There was also a slip of paper inside. Its message had been written in cursive hand and read as follows. I know why you're here, Mr. Sharp. I know what you're looking for. Be at the Green Bird restaurant at 7 p.m. P.S. Bring the puzzle box. I rushed to the window and looked down at the street. I saw pedestrians, all sorts, going about their business, but nothing stood out as odd. Nobody looking up at my window. Nobody in the adjacent building looking across into my room. I went to the door, checked the hallway. Nothing there either. Turning back to my room, nothing seemed out of place. I'd left the do not disturb sign on the door and I knew the maid hadn't been in because the bed was still unmade from the morning. I checked the closet. Nothing appeared out of place. My single duffel bag still had everything that it should have. Nothing was missing. I rang down to reception to see if anyone had called the room today, but nobody had. I paced back and forth, staring at the open package. Who was this person? How did they know who I was? And more importantly, how did they know why I was here? And who the hell sends a puzzle box anyway? Not Sabrina, that was for sure. She hated puzzles. And besides, she'd have written the message in blood. The alarm clock showed just after 6:15 in the evening. I knew there was a flight back to London at 7:10. If I hurried, I could make the airport in time. No. I'd spent too long getting to this point. If I missed this opportunity now, I'd never get it back again. But I couldn't take any chances. I called down to the concierge and had them order me a taxi to the Green Bird restaurant. Then I grabbed the puzzle box and headed out. In the back of the taxi, I examined the puzzle box. It was made of black wood, hard and smooth to the touch. The design was an elaborate geometric mosaic and made my eyes hurt if I stared at it too long. That's a good point. Aren't you meant to check in 3 hours before an international flight? Yeah, maybe. I guess that's true. But, our guy is he's in a panic. Remember, he's panicking. He's thinking, what can I do to get out? But yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I need to go and examine that. Right, it made my eyes hurt if I stared at it too long. I prodded the sides to find the secret panels, but I was too flustered to have any patience. How the hell had someone found me? Damn, I cursed, and the taxi driver shot me a look in the rearview mirror. I gave him a dirty look back. Problem? I said. Traffic's bad, he said meekly, and then he's going to give us a reason, hopefully that will have to do with the plot a little bit later on. I told him to step on it. We moved through the east side streets of Shinjuku, going deep into Kabukicho, the red light district. Lots of gambling, prostitution, and lowlives this side of town. The kind of people I deal with a little too much for my liking. Then again, that's how I'd met Sabrina. I turned my attention back to figuring out who was messing with me. It didn't make any sense. Nobody could have known I was coming to Japan. I'd planned everything meticulously, right down to the new alias I'd made. The taxi pulled up about 30 minutes after we'd left the hotel. The driver told me the Green Bird was about halfway down the bustling street to our left. I couldn't miss it. But I walked straight past the place without giving it a single glance. I wasn't about to just walk into some random restaurant without checking out the place first. I had no idea who or what I was dealing with, and if things went to hell, like they often did, I needed to know I could get out quickly. There was an alleyway beside the restaurant. It had a fire escape going to the roof and a couple of dumpsters that I could smell all the way from the street. There was a homeless guy slumped against one of the dumpsters with a needle sticking out of his arm. Nobody seemed to care. I checked my watch. It was 5 to 7, 5 minutes before I'd been told to be here. Obviously, I was walking into a trap, but I'd come too far now. 3 years of searching, I couldn't back off. I couldn't back off now. So I took a breath and walked into the Green Bird, straight into a trap. The place was empty except for one table in the middle of the room. The woman sitting at it looked up at me as I entered. She was young and good-looking with those long black lashes and sticky red lips. I should have run straight out of there. But 2 bruisers in cheap black suits stepped up behind me and blocked the entrance. The woman checked her watch and smiled her red lips. She motioned to the seat opposite her, and it really wasn't a question. I glanced at the fire door in the far right of the room. I might not have been as big as the 2 bruisers behind me, but I was sure as hell faster. I thought about the homeless guy slumped against the dumpster. No doubt these 2 would trip over him if they tried to chase me. But I wanted answers, so I joined the woman at her table. "There's a story we tell children," she said, speaking in Japanese like she knew I could understand her, "about a troublesome tanuki who plagued an honest farmer for days on end. One day the farmer laid a trap and caught the tanuki. 'Do not untie it,' he told his wife, 'before I come back from the market tonight.' But the farmer's wife was a kindly woman, and the tanuki's hopeless crying soon got to her. She took pity on the little creature, but no sooner did she untie it, did the tanuki kill her, chop her into pieces, and make a soup out of her. The tanuki then shape-shifted into the form of the farmer's wife, and when the farmer came home, the tanuki fed him the soup. The woman snapped her fingers, and from the kitchen came a waiter who put 2 bowls of steaming soup in front of us. The woman smiled at me. 'Go ahead,' she said. I glanced at the fire door again. 'That's a children's story?' I said, but my feet were dancing under the table. The woman ate a spoon of soup and licked her red lips. 'My name is Kyori Matsumoto, Yakuza Captain 18, head of the clan Matsumoto and she who lays claim to the 4th Ward Shinjuku of the great city, Tokyo.' 'Oliver Sharp,' I said, spooning my own soup. 'Troublesome tanuki.' I couldn't tell whether that quip got to her, because she had about the best poker face I'd ever seen. A flawless complexion like a perfect porcelain doll. She sat tall and upright, all her movements precise as if choreographed well in advance. I couldn't help watching her red lips glide over her soup spoon. 'The puzzle box,' she said eventually. I took it out of my pocket and put it on the table, but I said nothing. I wanted her to do all the talking. 'The first puzzle boxes were made long ago in Hakone,' said Kyori Matsumoto, 'a safeguard for personal jewelry and keeping children's fingers from sewing needles. But as their complexity grew, the samurai and ancient warlords began using them to pass their secret messages. I received a similar puzzle box upon my ascendancy to Yakuza Captain. Yeah, I didn't realize the Japanese mob was so liberal,' I said. Kyori Matsumoto fixed me with a look. It was a dangerous game to play, but I'd be damned if I let some woman keep the upper hand. I'd already come running here like a dog, but I could be a Rottweiler when I wanted to be. It took me 5 weeks to solve that box, she said, and in the corner of my eye, I saw one of her bodyguards pull out a gun. You, Mr. Sharp, will have until I finish my soup. I snorted. Nice try, love, I thought, but I wasn't about to play her game, and nor did I have to. Her bodyguard wasn't going to shoot me while I was sitting so close to her. So I picked up my spoon and slurped my soup. The bodyguard snarled at me to show some respect, but the 18th captain of the Yakuza refused to be ruffled. I still had a clear path to the fire door, so I decided to test that cool exterior with a bit of shock treatment. I waited until she was down to a last spoonful, and then snapped at my own spoon and smashed it down on the puzzle box, shattering the damn thing and busting open its contents. Solved, I said. Kyori Matsumoto didn't flinch. In fact, I got the impression that it'd take a bomb going off before she might yawn. She glanced at the broken puzzle box, dabbed her lips with a napkin, and then turned to her bodyguard. Tell them to serve the fish. The waiter served the next course, which I recognized instantly as fugu, or pufferfish. A single drop of fugu poison can kill an adult. Chefs have to undergo special training to learn how to prepare it. Apparently that makes it a delicacy. Not that I'd ever tried it, seeing as how a single plate runs upwards of $250. Kyori Matsumoto slipped the first sliver between her glistening red lips. While I turned my attention to the puzzle box. Why has the music gone off? Okay, never mind. To the puzzle box I'd smashed. Among the debris lay a fluffy, white rabbit's foot. The farmer had a neighbor, said Kyori Matsumoto, picking up her parable. A crafty rabbit who swore to avenge the wife's death. He befriended the tanuki and invited him one day to harvest grass for the winter. On the way back home, the rabbit set the tanuki's bundle of grass on fire, and when the tanuki asked what the crackling sound was, the rabbit said they were walking on the crackling mountain. When the flames burned the tanuki's back and he was in terrible pain, the crafty rabbit helpfully applied a lotion made of chili powder. The next week, the rabbit invited the wounded tanuki to go fishing. He built a wooden boat for himself and a clay boat for the tanuki. Naturally, it wasn't long before the clay boat began to sink into the lake, and when the tanuki called out to his friend for help, the rabbit only laughed and said, "Now the farmer's wife is avenged." The rabbit then hit the tanuki with his oar, and both the tanuki and the clay boat sank into the lake forever. The farmer was so grateful that he invited the rabbit to live with him, and they became firm friends. My God, I thought. I'd wanted her to do all the talking, but if this Yakuza captain kept speaking in riddles, in parables, I mean, at least Sabrina would just call me a bastard and be done with it. Tell me why I'm here, I said plainly. Kyori Matsumoto finished her fugu and placed her cutlery neatly on her empty plate. I have enough tanukis on my farm, Mr. Sharp. What I need is a rabbit. And how about what I need, I said. I never knew a farmer who could grow that. She gave a signal to the kitchen and the waiter came and removed our plates, replacing them with a black basket of what I thought were plums. These are my favourite, said Kyori, fingering the plump fruit. Father took me to Ishikawa to harvest the first vintage, and I've never missed one since. I still remember how his eyes lit up when he talked about the incredible new fruit that he'd helped to produce. The fruits of our labour are sweetened by the sweat of our brow, he used to say. And the ruby Roman grapes are sweet indeed. Each grape weighs over 20 grams and is at least 18% sugar. And that's only the regular class. The premium class, such as these, require each grape to be over 30 grams. Grapes? I said, astonished. Kyori Matsumoto plucked one from the heavy bunch, holding it on her flat palm as she examined its perfection. I stared silently as her red lips softly caressed the hard round ball, a split second before her teeth pierced its flesh. A trickle of juice ran down her chin, and she smiled at me as she swallowed. So you see, Mr. Sharp, the soil is rich in Shinjuku. Yeah, I thought, glancing back at the bodyguard who pulled the gun on me. But what's in the compost? How did you know I was in Japan, I asked. I know everything that goes on in my ward. How do you know what I'm looking for? And then she says, which we still don't know, a comment that convinces him that he'll get paid and everything's kosher. I clenched my jaw. I couldn't believe how poorly I could read her face. Surely she couldn't have known what I was looking for. She hadn't even named it explicitly. Then again, I don't suppose you would if you knew what it was. Either way, I should have run straight out of there. But like I said, I've never been one to make good decisions. Okay, I said. Wonderful, she said. And so the 18th captain of the Yakuza served me tea and grapes and told me all about her twin sister, the 7th captain of the Yakuza, whom she wanted me to kill. Mizuki was always a mischievous child, said Kyori. Mizuki the Tanuki, my father used to call her. Do you know she once broke into Principal Tanaka's office in order to change her end-of-year grades? She would have gotten away with it too had she not also been compelled to take some very indecent pictures of herself and upload them to his work computer before leaving. Pretty insidious, I said, sensing a kindred spirit in this sister. Pretty nothing, said Kyori Matsumoto. It brought disgrace to our family and dishonor to our name. It was the first time I'd seen any emotion from her. I glanced at her bodyguards who looked equally stunned. But yes, she said, reeling herself back in like a viper. Like you. My father brushed it off as unchanneled potential. But I don't suppose you can understand how that made me feel, can you, Mr. Sharp? Naked, I imagine, I said. Remember, they're twins, right? But how do a couple of 20-somethings become Yakuza captains anyway? My story is simple, she said, sipping her tea. My father died tragically. I ascended to captain in his place. I could have been wrong, but I was pretty sure I saw a smile behind that teacup. Naturally, this never sat well with Mizuki. Spoiled child that she is, she believed father would bequeath her the great honor of captaincy. But only I am the firstborn, and only I have earned the right. How did Mizuki come to power? It's Principal Tanaka all over again, said Kyori. Mizuki did not accede to my authority as head of our clan, and 10 months after my ascension to captain, she abandoned our family and sought asylum with our rivals in Koto Ward. Now it seems that she has weaseled her way to the top. She who controls Koto controls the docks. The port of Tokyo is a major component in Yakuza operations, and already the Yakuza has suffered many setbacks due to Mizuki's lack of sense. Once again, she brings dishonor to my father's legacy and disgrace to our name. My superiors will not stand for war between the captains, but something must be done. There is a captain's meeting in 2 weeks. Mizuki must be dealt with before then. And this is basically the end of chapter 1. We still need to kind of just tidy up this little bit, but the plot is in full swing. And then we have this later scene, obviously, where Sharp then finally does meet the sister. So the sister's obviously going to have her side of the story. So at some point they meet. I think this is in a dojo, in a a martial arts dojo. So I'm just going to put that as a direction. Guys, let me know what you think. That was chapter 1. Hopefully you're sort of caught up with the plot now. So I'd seen twins before, but none so identical as these. Mizuki Matsumoto was a carbon copy of her sister, Kyori. The same porcelain white skin, the same long black lashes. Only Kyori's lips had been red like crushed cherries, while Mizuki's were black like oil. Mizuki wore a black leather glove on her left hand. Sharp-san, she said. An honor to meet you. Kyori Matsumoto had spoken to me in Japanese. Apparently this sister didn't think I was as well endowed in the tongue department. I took her hand and shook it. Miss Matsumoto. Captain Matsumoto, she said, immediately tightening her grip on my hand until the little finger of my hand crunched under the pressure. We don't need to say that. Obviously, it's what other little finger is it if not of your hand? So, Captain Matsumoto, she said, immediately tightening her grip on my hand until the little finger crunched under the pressure. I winced at the pain. I couldn't believe how strong she was. Apologies, she said quickly, but my father ingrained the importance of formalities from a young age. Okay, and now this scene needs to continue. So she led me inside her dojo, all along the walls. Let's have display cabinets because we want to use those before. But guys, what do you think so far? Are you keeping up with this? How does it sound? What can be improved? Thoughts, feedback are always appreciated. What are you guys writing on? Let us know. Let's start the conversation. And let's get writing. The walls were lined, actually. That's a better way of saying it, what I want to say. Okay, 1 second. Walls were lined with various training swords, katanas, and photos. Lined with various training swords, katanas, display cases, and photos. Okay, so this part obviously comes later. This is her side of the story that Kyori Matsumoto has just said. Kyori Matsumoto in the first scene, she says that, you know, she was the good child. It's not your genre, Angsthaze. Am I saying your name right? Angsthaze. What is your genre? I hope I'm confident in my direction. You know, this is the 4th book I'm writing. First book, Hearing Voices, was a thriller. This seems like it's going to be some kind of thriller, possibly going in the fantasy direction. I don't know. But it's Japan. Anything can happen. It's a magical land. What are you guys writing? What's your genre? Where are the problems that you have? What are the problems you have in writing? For me, it's usually the plot doesn't always come together quite rightly. That's where my editors usually have to step in and say, yeah, you got decent characters, but come on, this plot is it's a bit thin. Spec fiction. Love spec fiction. Yeah, cool. Can we watch you write at some point? You got to send in some stuff. We want to see. By the way, has anyone been on the Twitch Writers Network? Someone recommended me that a couple of days ago on this stream. I'm definitely going to check it out. They have an open mic night where we can all sort of read excerpts of what we're working on and get some feedback. I think that'd be pretty helpful, right? It's one thing to have, sort of editors and friends and all the rest of it, but still, go to the people, go to fellow writers, people who can help make the work stronger. Is contemporary slice of life. Where are you published? Are you in magazines, or are you novels? Are you how are you getting published? Or are you on blogs? Okay, so I want to put in this. Yeah, so Kyori Matsumoto basically said that her sister was, a rascal, right? She did that whole thing at Principal Tanaka's office. She cheats. Usurper King's editing stream's more helpful, right? What, than the Twitch Writers Network? Cool. I'm up for that. Missing the Boat. Guys, everyone in the chat, check out Missing the Boat. Let's see what our colleagues are doing. So Missing the Boat, today's book of the day. My sister was always jealous of my father's love. We have this opposite side of the coin. The story is that the younger sister is not. She was going to be the Yakuza captain. Her father loved her more than the older sister. The older sister killed the father and took by force the captaincy. And now the younger sister has run off. So we need to... That's something we need to write about. Okay. So we know how the scene ends. So if you guys remember the story that I read about the Tanuki and the farmer and the Tanuki, which by the way is a real that's a real story, right? That is an actual folk tale that we just turned into dialogue about the Tanuki and the farmer, and then the rabbit comes and avenges everything. So Kyoryu Matsumoto has said, Mr. Sharp, you're going to be my rabbit. You are going to avenge me. You're going to go and take out my sister, the troublesome Tanuki. And at the end of this scene, I see, when Sharp has finally met Mizuki and we think everything is going to turn out good for him, she serves him a meal, and what she served? Rabbit, right? And the subtext is clear. The subtext is, yeah, I know you're working for my sister, and you're dead meat, right? We know how the scene ends. Okay, so if we're going to use if we're using the Save the Cat writes a novel plot points, I do recommend this book. I'm not going through the exact method with this book. I have used it before to good success. But if we're using this, then we're thinking about the midpoint of the novel. This is a scene around the midpoint, which is going to be seemingly a false defeat, where our protagonist has sort of jumped through all the hoops. He's met the antagonist, and then she says, "No, actually, you're not going to succeed. I'm onto you." And then whatever, she throws him into the dungeon. Thanks for the link. Yeah, I will definitely check that out immediately after this stream and get working on it. Okay, so are you full-time? Are you a full-time writer, or are you sort of doing it in your spare time and trying to climb up into the industry like me? I mean, I have got a few things published, but we're all trying to get to that next level. Okay, so I want to write this. I want to write this bit about her side of the story. So if Kyoryu Matsumoto made her cut off all her fingers, obviously then that's the reason she decided, yeah, I'm not sticking around to have more of my hand chopped off. So I think that this needs to be something like, yeah, what's her side of the story? Okay, yeah, got it. Right, so after this whole thing about cutting off the hand, so I threw myself at the feet, feet of our... Yeah, I'm in London. Greetings from London. I guess the accent gave me away. Where are you guys based? Are you American? Get a lot of Americans tuning in. Yeah, yesterday was a crazy day. It still is. We've still got things going on. But Her Majesty obviously was laid to rest yesterday. Canadian. So it's same for you, right? Commonwealth. She's our queen. So yeah, very moving, very trying time. But also, we have a king now. So that's pretty awesome. A king. That's going to take some getting used to. Yeah, it's Charles III. This is big time stuff. This is history in the making. And that coronation is going to be something else. Wow. Tara Faye Bell, Australian. Love the Australians. So have you guys been watching did you guys manage to see the world news? Watching the funeral. Yeah, Elizabeth, she was She's been a mainstay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, at the feet of our. Okay, so I think this Mizuki, she's like. She gets all the fingers cut off, and she just has such hate for her sister now. So I threw myself at the feet of our clan's fiercest. You know, she just does something really spiteful. Fiercest rival. And then let's get a glimpse of this guy. She gestured at a large... Okay, so we can use those photos on the wall. Or maybe it's a painting, not a photo. Painting on the wall. The subject was clad. Clad is the right word, right? Clad in a lustrous silk kimono. I think kimono is what I'm thinking of. On so good. As it happened, one of the reasons they were so exhausted because it started at 3 a.m. their time. Ah, yeah. You can still get the highlights though. You can see everything on the YouTube channels, the BBC and the World Sky News World channels. They've got reruns of it, of what happened yesterday and everything that's going forward in the next few days. The question is, what monument will be built to honour the her late Majesty, because that will obviously be something spectacular. Another landmark in London being built. So we all wait to see that. Right, subject was in a lustrous, not lustrous, clad in lustrous silk kimono. Let's have him, you know, I'm using probably a lot of Japanese stereotypes now. So the Tuesday streams will probably suit you best. You can set the earliest starting time. Yeah, that sounds good. Tara Bell, you have a Memorial Day on Thursday. That's cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to stay up pretty late or pretty early, I guess. But I'm definitely gonna get in on that action. The Usurper Kings editing stream. All right. Are you guys there? So you guys will be there too. You know, you can welcome me in. Kneeling on a cushion. This is a bit of a, what do you call it? A bit of a, what's the word? Bit of a stereotype maybe, but you've been streaming for over an hour. It usually doesn't end until an hour later than now. Doesn't end. Or doesn't start. No, it doesn't end. Okay. Fine. Yeah, I'll catch it. I'll make the time. Okay. Have a good dinner. Tara Faye Bell, good to have you here. Oh, actually, I've got to get to work soon anyway. Probably got about 10 to 15 minutes just to get some thoughts down, and then we will edit tomorrow. But kneeling on a cushion. So, right, I like this idea of the dojo. So I'm going to continue that. Right, kneeling on a cushion, right? Let's have him have, like, what's a good thing? Steel grey hair. Was pulled tight into a bun. I basically just want to make this guy look like a... Yeah, of course. We need sensitivity readers. Actually, who did we have on the stream a couple of weeks ago? What was the name? I forget. But yeah, we have some viewers from Japan tuning in who also are giving little hints and tips. Very helpful stuff as well. But yeah, of course, editors and... It's Coffee Quills in Japan. Yeah. I don't think it was Coffee Quills though. No, Coffee Quills definitely has tuned in a couple of times. But it was... no, it was someone else. But yeah, love Coffee Quills. Big shout out to Coffee Quills. So it was kind of last right kneeling cushion. His steel grey hair was pulled tight into a bun. Yeah, Amanda Panda Sensei. That's the one. That's the one, Amanda Panda Sensei. Yeah, she was telling me about Shinjuku and just how bad it is or not, as the case may be, in terms of like the red light district. So a little bit more tame. Yeah, still fun. Let's say something like, you know, his face could have broken. I know what I want to say. I need to make this a little bit better, but whatever. Let's just get this down. My revered master Kenji Takahashi. Again, I'm just plucking names that I kind of have heard, you know, Japanese names that I kind of have heard before. Obviously, we need to make these all better in the future, but that's not a today job. Both of them are expatriates living in Japan, though, so still an American view of the country. Okay, cool. Wow, I would love to go and live in Japan for a little while. Where is your top destination? Tell me where your top destination is to go to travel. Bali looks quite good too, but Japan, I would definitely want to go visit there. You know, I'm writing a novel in Japan. I haven't even been to the country. Maybe I'll go there and claim that it's research. Maybe I can claim some money back from that. It took, let's see, many months to convince him of my allegiance. But eventually, so we did the research on this a couple of days ago. It was on the stream. Yeah, you want to come and visit Scotland? Scotland is beautiful. But it's going to get very cold very quickly now as we head into October and November. So wait, you guys still can't travel? You've still got restrictions? You can't have restrictions now, surely. I thought you can fly to anywhere. Alright, so but eventually, you know, we drank from the same cup, and he became my... what was the word that they used? Oyabun, I think. Okay, so basically they have these relationships in Japan, in the Yakuza, which is like a master and disciple relationship, a father-son relationship, father-daughter relationship, and they call those Oyabun and Kobun. That's the relationship. I can't remember though if Oyabun is the master or the child or the disciple. Yeah, perfectly legal to engage in unwise behavior, for sure. Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, Bun. So okay, let's have him see a picture. She's probably, you know, very proud of this picture. Saw a photo beside the portrait of the ceremony to which she referred. Let's say the former 7th captain, right? Captain of the Yakuza, sharing a single chalice. It's probably not a chalice, but chalice sounds cool for now. Of sake with Mizuki, cementing their new father-daughter relationship. It's something like that, basically. Yeah, Oyabun is the right one. All right, thanks for that. Literally the parent status, and the followers are known as apprentices, literally child status. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I think I've got that right. So again, this is the kind of the backstory is quite well established, I think, in these characters. I think this is the way that we want it to go. We have these twin sisters. The older one was always the good one. The younger one was always mischievous. But the father, who was a captain of the Yakuza, was going to bequeath everything to the younger sister. The older sister got jealous, kills the father, takes by force what's hers, and then essentially punishes her younger sister until the younger sister flees to a different clan, to a different Yakuza master, pledges allegiance to him, works her way up through the ranks, and eventually takes over as captain, as the rival captain, or as a rival captain of the Yakuza. And now these two are going to go head to head in this war. So that's basically what we're fleshing out here in dialogue. Mizuki cementing their new father-daughter or master-disciple relationship. I kind of like the idea that, I'm not sure though, if she was always the father's favorite, maybe she wouldn't. Father-daughter is a bit, maybe not quite right. She wouldn't necessarily see him as a father figure, more like a master, because if her father loved her so much, and essentially now she's trying to avenge his death and take what was hers, maybe then she's not going to see another man ever as her father, but as a master. And maybe also this, like a mentor, exactly like a mentor. What I'm thinking is that this Mizuki Matsumoto, we said she was always a mischievous child, had a lot of energy, a lot of, she did that whole thing at Principal Tanaka's office. She was very undisciplined as a child. So when she flees to this new master who owns this dojo, let's say, and he's very disciplined, right? He's very sort of martial arts based. Everything is, very precise. Every day has a schedule. You go through the motions every day. He starts to train her, right? He starts to make her strong enough to, be able to fight one-handed. So let's forget this robotic hand, right? She doesn't need a robotic hand. She needs a stump, but she's not afraid to show it, right? She's like, even with one hand, I am worthy. I'm better than most people. She has that crushing grip. She can defeat anyone in sword battle, despite the fact that she only has one hand, right? So this mentor trained her up, made her stronger, and now that she's become, ready to take over from him and has taken over from him, things are about to, the mentor was always holding her back. Don't take revenge yet. You're not ready. You're not ready to go up against your sister, right? Your sister is very intelligent. You are, you're not quite as sharp in that sense, but you have this unchanneled potential, right? The father said, that's good. The father said, no. Yeah, I'm thinking it's literally robotic. Like, okay, I know what you mean, prosthetic, robotic, whatever. I'm thinking just like a metal hand that is just seriously crushing. I don't think she has that. I don't want to give her that now. What I want is her to be a very, very sort of a strong, uninhibited character. She doesn't wear a prosthetic because who she's trying to impress? No, she still has that edge to her. And where her father said you have unchanneled potential, that's why you're doing all of these rebellious acts. When she goes to this, what have we called him? Kenji Takahashi. When she goes to this other mentor, she becomes, she gets trained, right? He channels her potential and makes her strong. And then he says, don't go after your sister yet. You're not ready. Then on his deathbed, when he bequeaths his, the legacy onto this Mizuki, he says, now you're ready. And Mizuki goes, you're damn right I'm ready. And now we're about to have, and that's sort of the background to this novel, right? So now they're going to war. And our guy Sharp, he is stuck in the middle. So we really do have two really quite cool characters in these twin sisters. And I think it is turning into a bit more of a Sherlock Holmesy type of approach, or a Poirot type of approach to this novel, where the protagonist, he's not really the character we're so interested in, right? When we watch Sherlock Holmes, we're not bothered about Watson. Like, we don't really care for Watson. We want to see Sherlock Holmes, but we need someone to observe him for us, right? We want someone to observe Poirot for us, because at the same time as we want to be in their head, we also want to be one step removed. So we have these two characters, and we have our guy Sharp. He's sort of in the middle, but at the moment he's more or less a camera. He's a Watson. So I need to figure out whether that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. There's definitely many different things we can do. He's definitely a strange character. He has some sort of mysterious background which we're not quite sure about. So there's definitely a few ways we can go. You know, to put it bluntly, you sort of have him as a, you know, sort of a god type character. You know, a very Neil Gaiman approach to this novel, where these two sisters are sort of, you know, sort of praying to him that he should grant them favor as they go to war. You know, maybe there's something there. I don't know. But okay, that's what I'm thinking. So we'll come back to that. Okay, so it became the Oyabun, right? Father, daughter. Obviously, the question is, why would your fiercest rival take you in, right? If this was the fiercest rival of their clan, why would he just take you in, right? Why would he take them in? Although actually, it's probably a simple answer. We could just say, you know, whilst my father and this Kenji Takahashi were rivals, they respected each other. That's a very traditional, you know, sort of approach to this problem. But it's in keeping with the with where the novel seems to be heading and set. My father may have been. Okay, it's something like their rivalry. Or maybe the intensity. Yeah, that's better. The intensity of their rivalry was matched by their mutual respect. Okay, that's the sort of reason. And then when Kenji heard of Kyori's dishonorable acts against me, right? You can imagine this younger daughter turning up at the you know, at the palace, in the area of this rival, and saying, "Look what my sister has done to me. She's made me cut off my fingers. You were the rival of my father, but you also showed him respect. Take me in, train me up," and you know, it's that story. So I think that works, right? He took me like under his wing, whatever. Okay, so that's okay. I think that's pretty good, actually. That's a pretty good day. We didn't actually write so much today, but it's nice to think out the backstories, because now with that I can sort of churn away and write what needs to be written. Okay, so I think the backstory is fairly well established now between these two characters. So with that, their intentions will be clear, their desires are clear, and therefore we know how they're going to act. We know what they want. That's the most important thing with the plot. You know, that's what all of these great authors say in every one of the masterclasses that I've done, and in fact all my editors too. You know, unless you know exactly what your character wants, you don't have a story, right? Desire is the engine of the plot. So yeah. So I hope this is, yeah, I think this is all making sense. Only Korizutsu, right? So, okay, she led me inside her dojo. The walls were lined with various training swords, katanas, display cases, and photos. Probably then, so maybe she was training, right? Maybe, let's just write some of this down. Mizuki has been training, right? She has this rigorous daily routine that was taught to her by this, essentially, the Oyabun, her mentor, right? Mizuki has been training. She has I'm thinking it was. Anyone remember that? Which one is it? The James Bond film, Die Another Day. It's Die Another Day, where he goes to the fencing club, right? And then he's, it's kind of like it's that scene, where the protagonist meets the antagonist at a in a fencing club or in a martial arts tournament, and they have the preliminary battle, right? It's something like that. It feels like that kind of a scene, maybe. So Mizuki has been training. She has a rigorous. How do you spell rigorous? Rigorous daily routine taught to her by her mentor. Okay, so she's probably sweating a little bit, and she sort of tosses the sword that she's been training with, shakes the hand, and our guy Sharp doesn't immediately notice that she's one-handed. She only has one hand, right? Because if you imagine maybe these, let's go very sort of Tarantino in Kill Bill. Remember what Ore Nishii was wearing? Those sort of long sleeves. You can't really tell what's going on under the clothes. She has a rigorous daily taught to her by a mentor. She's sweating a little bit. Or maybe we see her, right? He walks in just as she is like dispatching one of her training partners, right? That we've seen that a million times in films, but it never gets old, right? She's sweating a little bit, dispatching one of her training or sparring partners, let's say. I think that's probably a better term. So we immediately see that she is a fighter, right? She knows how to handle herself. Again, this woman is a very dangerous woman, but different to her sister. Whereas her sister was a very what's the word? More like a princess. She's more like I don't do my own dirty work. My bodyguards pull the gun, right? This sister, she's not going to have one of her guards pull a gun. She's going to, push the sword in. She's the one who's going to stick the knife in the back, or really in the heart. She does her own. That again, it's the difference between the sisters. And I'm thinking actually in one of these display cases, wouldn't it be cool if again you can see this scene, you can just see it right in the display case on the walls where should be martial arts trophies and things like that. What about if instead of it just containing this pure white handkerchief and very sharp ornate knife, and this knife is the one that she had to cut her own hand off, what happens if our guy Sharp, he looks in the cabinet and he sees, this sort of, he sees a model of a hand, which is grasping a sword, which is grasping this ornate knife. Okay, so it's a model hand grasping this ornate knife, and then he hears the story. He doesn't give it really a second look. This hand in the thing, and then Mizuki starts telling him the story about the time that she had to cut off her hand piece by piece, and then it suddenly dawns on him. He looks back at the glass display case, and it's not a plastic hand in there. It's her hand. She's, sort of put it back together again, and it's holding the knife, and she's keeping it as a trophy. She's keeping it as a reminder that, this is what's fueling her to become better, to train harder. That's such like a master, a karate dojo master type of thing to say to the student, right? Self-taxidermy, exactly. That's such a thing. He's like, use the pain of loss to drive yourself to the next level. So, she turns up on his doorstep with basically the pieces of her left hand, clutching the piece. Look what my sister has done to me. Yeah, I'm weak. I'm defeated. And he says, no. This is only the beginning, right? We're going to use the pain, and we're going to use it all, and we're going to channel it. And now you're going to, I'm taking you under my wing, and I'm going to build you up. And so that's a pretty good backstory, actually. I think I mean, look, I don't know about you guys, but I think that's pretty good. So let's write that in. And again, I need to, sort of think about it and, okay, let's put it in here. Let's do this. And then I'll finish with this for today because I've got to get A, breakfast, and B, to work. So, the way to atone for transgressions against another and humble oneself before the greater whole. Doesn't quite sound quite right, but whatever. She motioned me. What's going on here? She motioned me towards a glass display case containing, and then it's this thing, right? The question is, how do we say it? A model hand containing a, let's see, a model hand. This is what he thinks it is. Obviously, it is not that. A model hand holding a very sharp, ornate knife. The blade of the knife was crusted. So again, one thing that my editors will immediately say is, this is terrible because you've used a to be verb, was, am, is, when you don't need to. What you should say is, couldn't help but notice the crusted brown blood on the blade, something like that, right? You're putting it through his eyes. You get rid of that to be verb, which is very passive, and you make it more active. Again, I'm just passing along, some of the things that I've learned from my editors, and hopefully you guys can. You guys probably already know all this stuff, but for those who don't. For those who are joining us on YouTube, come on over to Twitch someday as well, and let's do this live. Join in, share the wisdom that we've all amassed over our time as writers. Okay, and then we can go into this thing of, so yeah, better to do it in the middle of dialogue, right? She motioned me towards a glass display case containing a model hand holding a very sharp, ornate knife. I couldn't help but notice the crusted brown blood on the blade. Some say this ritual originated with degenerate gamblers who could not pay their debts, but in fact it dates back much further, to the samurai and legendary swordsman. You see Mr. Sharpin's swordplay. It is the little finger which grips the tightest on the hilt, and she can demonstrate that if she's holding a training sword. She can hold it up. To amputate this finger then is to weaken one's grip, and a weak grip betrays a weak warrior. And this, if she's already shaken his hand at the beginning of the scene, that's quite good actually. Where she sort of crushed his hand, his grip was weaker than hers. There's a little bit of subtext there, betrays a weak warrior. So our guy's probably going to react to that. Betrays a weak warrior. I didn't like that quip. Okay, we'll come back. Let's actually put this afterwards. So, thus, he becomes more dependent on the protection of his master. I didn't like that quip. Maybe he's like massaging his hand and sort of stops afterwards. Let's try something like, she paused long enough for me to realize that I was massaging my hand from our handshake. Okay, again, just putting it down. I can edit all this later, but it's good that it's there. Okay, so yeah, let's get rid of this robotic hand, this prosthetic hand, and let's instead say she held up her left hand, or rather what was left of it. You know, what was left of it. 14 offenses did Kyori accuse me of the day of her ascension, said Mizuki. For each offense, another knuckle was cut. So I gaped at her stump. Exactly, it is always harder to edit a blank page. That said, my favorite part of any novel is the first page, because you can't go wrong. It's literally impossible to go wrong. And I do recommend, guys, checking out the older videos, you know, from a few weeks ago. We're only in week 3 here, but go back and check out, you know, day 1, page 1, where I started to write this novel, because that, I think we came up with a pretty good first page. I'm quite happy with that first chapter. You know, I read it out again today for you guys just joining, but that was a really cool day just to get that first page on, and then everything sort of developed on. That was pretty good. That doesn't always happen, but I do recommend checking out that. You can get that one on YouTube, because until this channel's at 50 followers, I can't re-upload the old videos. So they are all on the Right Before Your Eyes YouTube channel. Check that out. Okay, so we have this backstory. I gaped at a stump. Kyori cut off your fingers. Mizuki shook her head. I did. Yeah. Okay. It was hard to look her in the eye. I kind of know what I wanted to say here, but this was kind of really bad stuff. Okay, but basically then we want to have, you know, after this training session, maybe they spar a bit together, and then she says, let's now go and eat. And what do they eat? They eat rabbit. So it looks like he's infiltrated Mizuki's organization, and then she serves him the rabbit and just says, you are dead meat. You're in the wrong place. You are not going to achieve your goal. I know you're working for my sister. And then it all goes downhill for him after that, right? That's the midpoint of the novel. So yeah, that's basically it. Okay, that's good enough for today. I think what this shows is some days you get to write a lot, and some days you get to think a lot, and things become very, very, very clear, or at least a lot more clear than they were, and that will then drive tomorrow. So tomorrow's probably going to be a very, very good writing day, because now that we have the backstory fully fleshed out for these characters, we can really turn that all into dialogue, or action, or whatever. Okay, so this scene has been, you know, is a real success, I think. Yeah, have a great rest of your day, guys, too. Again, tune in pretty much same time, same place tomorrow, when I will continue to, here it comes, the sign-off that everyone likes, when I continue to write